I think we got enough people to just start. Do you guys want to just start? I don't know if we're really waiting on people at this point.
Is there
Circuitry
have a question?
That's 601.
Is there is there a way to turn off the spatial audio? Because you're so far away that you're quiet now.
How's that?
That's just me.
Is that better?
That's good. Thank you. Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Also,
I'll show you guys how to do that too.
The more you start to build, I anticipate you're probably going to lose me or maybe somebody else.
We're not going to build a whole lot at first. I'll go over some basics and just kind of show you guys some really basic concepts first. And then once we get to the tools, then we might start, everybody start building stuff, and there'll be more of a load at that point, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay. This is fabulous. What a great setup. What a cool idea. This is like the first kind of classroom I've seen like this in VR.
Yeah. This is
really cool, man.
Yeah. Just kind of I kind of just thought about what does like a college class kind of look like, and what would I want it to look like in VR, and this is what I want it to look like, so I made it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
In space.
Yeah.
Right? Let me see here. I'm trying to remember how to do this from last week. So, man, so
seems like we got
on my palette.
a new person. Hello, Sam Luck.
Hello, new person.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Samantha. Oh, she's bringing up a little bit, but she's here.
She's really
She's here.
happy.
Yeah, she's probably still loading.
Hi, Sam.
Ooh, she teleports.
How do we get rid of
All of these are stations. Yeah, she got that. Where'd she teleport to?
Over there.
Hello, Sam.
Come back! Come back!
Oh yeah, she's way out there. There she goes.
There we go. She's come back.
All right, then.
There we go. There she is.
There's one free spot over there. It looks like you're almost
Too
there.
choppy.
One to your left. It's choppy.
Oh,
huh?
is it choppy? Oh shoot.
Are you on Wi-Fi or are you networked in? I think. I just really want to get rid of the menu because I don't want to accidentally exit Neos or change
so
sections.
I'll just tell you right now, if you hold your left hand up by your ear and hit your menu button, it'll open and close that menu. If you're on the Vive, then it is the. Did you find it?
That's so weird that I have to hold it by my ear because I pressed that button without doing it. Yeah, it would work.
Oh.
It would work. I'm
Okay,
on
there we go.
Oculus.
I got it.
Yeah. There's other ways to do that, but that's kind of implementation of what Fruxus is calling gestures, and so he's coming up with various gestures, like do things at certain positions, and they do various things within your user space.
Wow.
I really, really like the gestures on the menu select and how it wow, I really like this.
Cool.
That's cool. Let me see if I can record locally because this is a trip.
All right, so why don't we?
First time here, Urban. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll just get started. It's after 6. I don't know if more people have joined, but maybe we can catch them up when they jump in. So give it a shot.
Nice. Sounds good.
All right, so
Floor, sir.
these are kind of the topics
Intro? Have you?
I've written. Sure, if you're curious about me.
Yeah.
Good call, Sam.
I don't know you very well.
It's all about Neos, not me. What's this? Yeah. So
Come on, man. Come on.
So my name is Jared Bittner, and I live in Washington. I'm in Gig Harbor outside of Seattle, about an hour or so out on the peninsula. And it's let's see, I have a wife and 3 kids and a dog and a fish. Yeah.
How long have you been working in VR? When did you start?
I first started in 2014 when the DK2 came out.
Okay.
Just kind of thought it was really interesting. A buddy of mine had gotten one, and he showed me what it could do, and I was like, yes, this is for me. So I've been following it, and it's been mostly a hobby since then, and I've dabbled in web VR and some Unity development and a lot of like A-frame type stuff. But what I really fell in love with was creating stuff, and in particular using things like tilt brush and medium and gravity sketch and anything I can just easily create stuff. I've been I can't get my hands on enough of it. Let's see. So
were you developing before VR? Were you a developer at all, or did you just like learn what you wanted to create? And
yeah, I was a developer for quite a few years. My development skills are in the web, though, not really in any sort of game development areas. So I work for a company called Lullabot, and we are a company that basically builds a lot of websites for large media corporations like MSNBC or Martha Stewart, IBM, various companies, and I don't know, I've always been on the cutting edge of technology type stuff and pushed us in from PHP into some JavaScript stuff here and there, and eventually got into VR stuff, and I do project management for my day job, and at night I love to do stuff in VR. So VR is actually kind of more of a hobby for me, and so yeah, I just like to do a lot of experiments and learn what I can.
Nice. How long have you been using Neos then?
I've been using Neos for 168 hours.
Nice.
the world according to Steam. Yeah.
Yeah, Steam makes that pretty easy to know. In terms of dates, I think probably about a year, maybe. I can't remember exactly when I started using it and falling in love with it, but the creator did an application long before called Sightline the Chair, which you might have heard of.
Okay. Right.
So that was one of his first forays into VR, and he's been doing stuff forever, and he's the one that created all of this, or allowed us to create all of this. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Cool. Let's do it. Thank you, Jared.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Either's fine. That's cool.
I didn't even get that until you said it out loud.
Yeah, that's funny. Most people say that, actually. I actually had it on my blog at one point. Circuitry, say it out loud, because nobody gets it until they say it out loud. Right. All right, so let's go through some of these topics I've got going on. This is a little bit lecture style, but feel free to, shout out a question or something like that. It's no problem at all.
Okay.
So I have written down here, user space versus world space. And what that really refers to is the fact that there's kind of a concept of stuff that only you can see in your space around you, and then there's the world which is shared with everybody else, that everybody else can see. So, for instance, the menu system that Urban was looking at wanting to get rid of, that dashboard menu, which is this right here. So that dashboard menu, for instance, is part of your user space. I can't see your dashboard, you can't see mine. And for the most part, when you click on anything in here, it opens up a window that nobody else can see either. So it's part of your space, and nobody can really see that unless you give them some special permission to do that.
Okay.
So that's kind of the user space versus world space concept. It's kind of an underlying architecture thing. And then there's your controllers, right? Everything is your controllers. You do things with your controllers and to manipulate the world around you, just like in real life, we have our hands to manipulate ourselves and the world around us. Left and right, I've got this kind of split up. Let's go over the right hand first because it's a little less intense. So right, we have our world navigator and our audio. So what I mean by that is if you look at your hands or your controllers, you'll see these little orbs on them. They're little like wireframe orbs, and they might even be highlighted. They might be yellow orbs on your hands. Okay. Those are basically buttons. You can point to them with your other hand, and you can click them to turn them on and off.
Huh. Okay.
See how that works?
What if they don't light? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry.
I think if you have something in one of your hands that you're aiming, then you can't do it. You have to make sure whatever's in your hand is out of it, right?
Yes, you have to have empty hands.
Okay. Mic check. Am I private? Mic check. No.
No, we can hear you.
So it says private click, and I click it, and the ball glows. What is that supposed to be doing for me?
So what that's doing is opening a menu for you. So on your right hand, it should be opening up the World Navigator and audio. You'll see something that looks kind of like this. Do you see something like that? It should be attached to your controller somewhere.
Yes, I can see it. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. And then are you using the shout or the broadcast to talk to everybody?
So I'm using broadcast right now, and that's how everybody can hear me, like I'm right next to you. If I turn it to shout, you'll hear me probably a little bit less normal. That's kind of your typical spatial audio. And then, of course, there's mute. So I'll keep it on broadcast here.
Nice.
So that's kind of the audio options there. Don't worry too much about the physical mode right now. That is thing for like when you implement a world and you have specific physics within it, you'd want to use that option to get what the author intended, basically.
Okay. Cool.
I hope I'm explaining that right. I don't know a whole lot about that. It's a fairly new option at this point, so. That's the other thing about Neos. There is updates like every single night. So Fruxus is working on it like a madman. I don't know where it's all he does, and it's amazing.
How long has this been out?
At
least 168 hours, I know, but
yeah. I think it's been as its form and its name, it's been out for, I want to say 2 years the project's been running, I think. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, the other thing with that menu that pops up, so the rest of it is what we call a world navigator. And you can think of these like tabs in your browser. When you have a browser, it keeps track of where you've been, and you have different tabs. These are a collection of different worlds, and as you open more worlds, you'll have more orbs on this. And they're always connected from where you started them. So if you start a world in this orb, when you're inside of this one, you start the VR school, you go to, then it connects it like that. So it just kind of is a hierarchy, a visual hierarchy type of thing. Welcome, new people.
Yeah, we got somebody. Hello.
Cool. Yeah, so any questions on World Navigator?
Yeah, I had one question about like the local and the XR artist. So the orb that has my audio on it, I understand, but the local and the XR artist, what is that? Is that just like my tree of where I am?
Yeah, so those are links to other worlds. So if you click on local right now, you will leave this world and go to your local computer. It's basically a file on your hard drive.
Okay. Perfect. That makes sense.
Yep.
And the little numbers, the number of people in there. Is that right? Like that. Like this one says
Yes.
10. XR artist says 10. Nice.
Correct. Yep. 10 different users in here. Oh, got some lag there. Somebody else join?
Do we each host our own instances, or is this like a Neo server somewhere?
Yeah.
Like,
So it is peer-to-peer right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically you're all inside of my computer now.
Awesome.
Yeah, wait till I take you inside of my brain, then you're really going to be freaked out. So welcome any new people. Yeah, this is a class I'm teaching about some Neos basics. So if you want to hang around and learn some basic Neo stuff, feel free to. You can grab a desk up here, and yeah, I'll keep going.
We got some real
Where do I grab the desk from?
These two who just came in.
Just go over here to where it says tools. These are kind of desks that I've made.
I think you can share the desk too. Yeah.
There you go.
No one's touching my desk. I'm kidding.
Is anyone up here?
Don't worry. If I'm out of desks, I can make more. It's really easy.
Inside of mind.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, so that's the World Navigator and the audio. Does anybody have questions about that?
Seems pretty straightforward.
How do we make the environment brighter?
How do we make the environment brighter?
Just a little bit. It's a bit hard to see, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I could change the lighting, the overall lighting in the world. But I want to kind of try to stick to these topics at this moment, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, Kevin.
So yeah. So I'll keep going here. The left hand. Could you guys keep it down just a little bit?
We can hear you over them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the left hand, you have a couple of other options. So this is where you can pull up your dashboard menu. This is similar to the right hand where we have the World Navigator and the audio. There's a button on your left hand that'll pull open that dashboard menu. And that's a nice way of getting some extra functionality that we'll go over.
Is that the menu button? Or how do you bring up the extra menu? Okay.
Yeah, sure. So you can do the gesture. If you have the Vive, you'll use this button, the controller menu.
Okay.
And if you have the Oculus Rift, you'll want to use Y. Or is it X?
Okay.
No, it's the Y. It's the Y.
Is it the Y?
The Y is the menu one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the Vive right now, so I'm not sure.
Why do I keep falling off the platform? I can't.
Oh, sorry. Muted you there by accident. Yeah, so... Yeah. Yeah, you can scale yourself within here. I'll definitely show you how to do that when we get to the grabbing and scaling part.
Sure.
He figured it out. So the inventory, I'll talk about the inventory just a little bit. When you have your menu open, there's a button on here for your inventory. And the inventory is basically, it utilizes your cloud storage allocation, and it allows you to take pretty much anything from any world and just save it into your inventory, so that you can go to other worlds and you could pull it out of your inventory, or you could even share it with people when it comes to like using the chat. There's a friends section with the chat, and you can actually mail them things as well, like objects you find.
Wow.
No way.
So within the inventory, you can save a bunch of. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? Yep. So
Sure.
what can we do about the lag, like the major lag that we would experience in Neos? Like, I can see everything that's happening and it's all real cool, but how can I have a smooth experience? That's what I'm really after.
Yeah, get a better computer is about all I can tell you. Or wait for there's some performance improvements that Fruxus is slated to work on this month, and so he's going to be working really hard to get like general performance improvements across the whole platform. So like within the month, I'm hoping we'll see a lot of improvements around that as well.
Yeah, because I'm definitely have a good computer. So that box is checked. So just wondering why it's off for such insane, slowdowns.
I don't know, because that's always hard to debug because it's different for everybody. Like, I don't have any lag right now, but I definitely hear your audio lagging. So I don't doubt you.
So is it based on a peer-to-peer thing? So if you're peer-to-peering with someone else, it's based on the internet connection and the performance of Neos?
Correct. Yes, that is part of it. What is your upload download speed? What is my upload download speed? That's definitely a factor. Cool. Any more questions about the inventory? Yeah, no problem.
How do you make a new folder in your inventory?
Oh, sure. So within your inventory, at the very top right, there's a green plus button. And when you hit that, it will come up and ask you for text, the name of the folder, and it will create a folder for you. And you can double click on any of the yellow folders or the orange folders to go inside of them. And then you can save stuff to that. In order to save something to your inventory, it's a little interesting. You have to kind of grab, whatever you want. So say I grab this helmet here, and then point. I usually drag it like behind. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we haven't actually gone over grabbing.
It's just like grabbing and moving things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Grabbing something is as simple as using your grab button. You point your laser at it and hold your grab button, and you can move it around. And I can give you guys something here to practice with if you want. I've been able to gripping on most things. But I can here, hold on a minute. Somebody's grabbing it already. Let me duplicate it a few times for people.
Oh, that's funny.
Sorry, that was me.
It's like a hand.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, yep. Here's a hand.
Kind of trippy.
Here's your assignment. Yeah, it's a stereoscopic, stereographic. I forget what it's.
Yeah, that's really cool. The images in 3D.
I was with the Jazz Neo talking about that, and Sterling was having a...
Hey, Para, could you mute? We're hearing you.
Oh,
Thanks, buddy.
What? Is it what? Mute?
I think it was Para, but he was talking. Not sure.
Oh, I didn't have to close that.
So the other thing real quick with any of these, if you grab one of these and you want to resize it, point both lasers at it, grab it with both, and then just pull, pinch and pull.
Nice.
I can only seem to pull out one laser at a time.
Sorry, what was that?
Okay.
I'll just go over here. Is there a list a distance restriction on the raycasting?
There isn't really.
I'm not able to. So I don't have any raycasting on mine.
Oh, you don't have raycasting on yours?
No, so I have to fly all the way over here. And well, I have to pick it up manually.
I grabbed it.
Man, like, keep those lanes small, please. Sam, my lanes are way too big.
Physical mode.
Just over there, just this big, please. We don't need lanes this big.
This is really cool. I think your server might be reaching capacity.
It might be.
Sam, you're lagging a bit. I can't hear you.
Sam, you're lagging. Your lanes are too big.
I'm lagging.
No,
I'm
Sam,
gonna get away from you guys.
I'm lagging.
I think she's trying to.
She's laughing at me.
My only suggestion that is if you're lagging to drop and come back in, and that helps sometimes I've found.
I honestly think it's internet. Because I can hear you fine, and I can also hear them chopping out.
Yeah, I can hear them chopping out too. You sound good.
Me too.
So yeah, well, that's grabbing and scaling. The other thing you can do when you're grabbing something, say I've grabbed this, I can pull it closer to me, push it away from me by hitting up on my thumb pad or down on my thumb pad. And I think that works with the Rift as well if you use the joystick.
Yep.
This thing just turned its X, Y, and Z axis directors on. I don't know why that is. Could be useful.
Oh, yeah.
Platform
Turn
supposed
it on
to
on
kick me
purpose.
off, or is it just me?
Yeah, that's funny. I think I did it. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
I have a tool equipped here.
So circuitry, the textual menu
Yeah.
helps to destroy or duplicate, right? When I bring it up, it's on the touch the is it the B button? What am I looking at here? Yeah. The B button. If you bring
So
it, yeah, you should be able to destroy or
Yeah.
duplicate when you.
yeah,
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what the context menu is you have some options there. And actually, let me do it on the camera here so you can see. But you'll have options. This is kind of your radial menu. And you can twist your arm to select these, or you can swipe on your thumb pad to rotate it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, so you can use these options if you have something gripped. So as soon as I grip something and then pull that up, then those are highlighted. I can delete or duplicate whatever I have gripped.
In order to delete, you got to double tap it like a trigger.
Yep, that's kind of a little safety feature. We didn't used to have that and tended to delete things by accident a lot.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because there's no undo.
There wasn't an undo. There is an undo now, though, actually, yeah. Yep, there is undo now. Yep, there was a point where, yes, you were deleting things and there was no undo, but now you can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you turn off full screen on a computer? Like, so it's not taking over your whole screen on your main PC?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been able to. I've never done that. However, there's probably lots of questions I can't answer tonight. But if you would like to join the Discord server, there's tons of people in there that are more than willing to answer questions all the time too. So it's a really good community to help educate people.
Is there like a hyperlink you can actually click inside the environment that will open Discord or something like, or I just have to find it or what? Or...
I'm not sure what you're asking. Can you ask that again?
Just join it. I can send you a link.
Yeah, there's
okay.
a link in the.
No worries. Yeah, I saw something in the lobby.
Oh, for Discord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. I'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll find it. It's just like.
Who's making penises already? Man.
Where? So can I ask like an unrelated question? Because like I heard like it's like Unity. So can you export what you make here and then use it in Unity as well, or are the two not interchangeable?
Yes, there is, and so that's a really good question. Let me talk about the file browser a little bit, and I can tell you how to do that.
Okay.
So one of the things in your main menu is a file browser, and when you bring that up, you can explore your whole hard drive. And so if you export something from another program like Gravity Sketch or Tilt Brush, you can pull those in through your file browser. Now, the library that's being used for that stuff isn't always completely accurate. So there's things like in Tilt Brush, certain materials don't show up with Neos, right? Kind of like Unity. And so you end up having to create those materials again within Neos. I've started collecting a library of them so that it's a little easier. If I bring something in and I know I've used like the dot brush, I can just pull this material out and I can shoot my geometry with that material, and then I can change the color of it and try to get it in, how it would in Tilt Brush. But for the most part, a lot of programs work pretty well. And one of the things that works really well, actually, see this, well, let me get to the camera here. I've got a bug on my head here, and I made this in Tilt Brush with the whole brush. So the whole brush actually imports just like this really, really well.
Wow.
So using any of the whole brush type brushes, it works out pretty well. It imports really nicely.
Wow, so you didn't do any extra like materials or anything on that? That just came in like that?
No. Yeah, this just came in just like this.
Cool. That's cool.
So yeah, this is a good sample. You might want to just grab it, duplicate it, and put it in your inventory.
I don't want to crash your system by opening up something, some huge.
No, you're fine.
Or something.
Oh yeah, don't open up any huge files.
Okay.
So I've got the grabbed object. I don't know how to save it now. I duplicated it.
Yeah, so if you want to... Yep. So if you open up your inventory or your file browser and go to where you wanted to save it, you would grab it and over the plus button on that window, just overlap it with your Raycaster and click, and it will add it into your inventory, or it will start asking you for export options.
How much,
if you're using your file browser.
Somebody told me just now, Jazz Neo, he said like if you're a patron you get like 20 gigabytes. So how much space do we have in the inventory?
Yeah, so it's all based on your cloud storage level, and you're right. The way that Neos pays for a lot of what they are doing and what they can do is by using Patreon. And Patreon, if you become a member, the level that you pay gets you more space for your cloud inventory. And so your inventory uses, if you create other worlds and upload them, it would use that. If you save things to your cloud home, it would, use that space. And it's pretty generous though. I mean, there's a lot of times where I've had very large files, like specifically in Gravity Sketch, that are just huge, like 50 megabytes. And by bringing them in and maybe even merging their meshes, it reduces the file size within Neos and packs it in very, very well. I was very surprised by the space savings I got from some of that.
All right, so not to kill a dead horse, beat a dead horse, but I've got to grab. I got my inventory open. Like I don't.
Yep. So on inventory window, do you see a plus button, a green plus button?
It's grayed out. Is that because I didn't log in or sign up?
Yes, you have to be logged in order to do that.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So you won't have any cloud storage without an account, basically, and therefore you can't really save anything to your inventory.
Got it.
But you can try it on your file browser. It's basically the same interface. If you open up your file browser, browse to where you want to save it, and use the laser and the plus sign there, it'll come up and ask you for some export options. I wish I could show you guys how that works. Let me see if that's working right now. There's a way to... Yeah, it doesn't seem to work. There's a button on there that's supposed to take it from my user space into the world space. And it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. I'll have to report that. But what that allows you to do, is just anything you create in here, you can export. And like I said, even if you export something and import it, things like materials don't always pan out as well.
Sure.
Inventory, file browser, new worlds. If you ever want to create a new world, that is on your menu as well. It's the very first button. It's red. This one right here. And that'll come up and ask you for some options, like what you want to call it and everything. And then as soon as you hit the start session, it will create that world with whatever options you gave it and take you to it automatically. So if you do that right now, just be aware that you will have to use your world navigator to get back here.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, you can actually. Yep, you can export an image, and there's even I'll show you guys at some point here. There's a camera within Neos. You can spawn it from your inventory, and that will allow you to take images in here. You can take screenshots with whatever you're pointing at, and you can even take like 360 photos, and it has some options. But why don't I just pull it out?
Yeah.
It's under Neos.
It's under what?
Under
Neos Essentials. There's a camera, so I can show you guys this camera. Okay, if you're not signed in, you may not have that.
Got it.
So here's the camera. I want to make this bigger.
Nice.
So this camera has some very nice options on it. We have so a single, you can take a stereoscopic photo. There's the second one there. And you can take a 360 photo, which you can see it changes this geometry around it to indicate that it's going to take a 360. And then this one, what's this one do, Aegis?
Okay, basically, that one makes a laser, and what that laser is pointing at only renders that for the camera. So it makes a cardboard cutout. Point it at me, for example, or at yourself. And then take a picture.
And so here is a picture where it's just him and it's got a transparent background.
And automatically makes it a PNG.
That's pretty cool.
So you can make cardboard cutouts of yourself.
So that's this bottom option. And then along the side, there's resolutions. You got 1 to 8K resolutions. It also has a timer. You can set a timer.
It is the gray
This
button
button,
to the
isn't it?
left.
This one.
There you go. Yep.
Got it attached, I
Actually
guess.
set the time of the timer if you open it up with the inspector.
Oh,
But
I haven't gotten
I don't know
there
if
yet.
you've gotten that
We'll get to
far,
that.
but yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
But this will give you a timer so that, hey, we can go out here and got 10 seconds to take a picture.
Yep. So the yellow button on the
So this
top
is the
too.
camera. What's that?
The little screen flips out too for selfies. Is that what's up?
Yeah, this, yep. So you can
Yeah.
take a selfie. Yep.
If you want a larger screen, press the top orb. It's a little blue orb. There you go. It's double-sided.
And seem to select it.
Yep. So if you spawn one of those, get rid of it when you're in, because it will start causing a lag if there's a lot of cameras in here.
Okay. Okay. Let me do that.
Just
Sorry, but how can I get onto a platform? I've been trying all time just get on a platform. How do that?
Oh, sure. You're pretty much there already. What kind of locomotion do you have?
Fall off. Okay. No, I assumed no.
okay.
So let's go over that actually. Let's go over locomotion because we haven't touched on locomotion. So within Neos, in your radio menu that you have here, the blue option will give you, it's a toggle, and when you click your trigger, you'll go to different options. So there's the teleport, there's grabbing the world, walk, run. This is more of a physical kind of locomotion, and then flying. And so each one of those, you can toggle to them, and then it's your stick or your thumb pad that you use to move in any of those modes.
I see the blue globe. Yeah. Oh, so I click with the other hand. So I was using my thumbstick.
Yep. Yeah, you click with your trigger.
Pull your trigger. Yeah, pull it.
So I have the menu open on my hand, and then I click my trigger on my left hand, and it toggles through these options. Make sure you can see that.
I just don't see the options anywhere. Oh, local? No. I've got
It's on your left hand.
mute. Oh, my left.
That's your right hand. You might have your controller switched.
Oh, I've got like session settings and stuff now. So then I go to settings, yeah?
No,
That's the
it's on
menu.
your controller.
The menu that you open with the A button or the X button to open up the either menu on your hand. Oh, wait. Yep, those are the ones that open up the bottom menus. But the ones that open up these menus here are the Y and B buttons to open up these radio menus around your hand. And if you're using Oculus, you move left and right, or twist your wrist to move the menu. If you're using Windows Mixed Reality or Vive, you swivel your thumb around left or right in order to move the menu left or right. You don't have to press down to do it. You just like
talking about
this menu right here that you open.
yes. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vegas.
Yep. Any and all questions, I'll answer them to the best of my
This guy's
ability.
probably got more hours in Neos than I do.
Later, I'll show you what I've just finished.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. All right, so I've only got one more thing on my topics list, and that is talking about these tools and how we use various tools. So one of the things that is really powerful about me is not only all the things that we've already gone over, like just being able to import stuff and things like that, but these tools. I know that some of you have used this pen already, but if you pick up the pen, oh, hi, Fruxus. Fruxus, how's it going? Everybody wave. This is Fruxus. He's the creator of Neos.
Hey, all right.
So yeah,
the pen tool.
Yeah, the pen tool. So any tools that we have within Neos, they all have different functionalities. And for the most part, they look like what they're probably going to do. The pen tool, any tool within Neos, if you point your laser at it, then double-click your grip buttons, it will attach to your hand without having to do anything else. So without having to hold the grip in. And then what you can do is use the trigger to just start using that pen. So here the pen draws. There's also this it's a little bit hard to see in this lighting. And you can, it's really hard to see in this lighting, but there's a little menu around the outside, and if this little wheel, make it go up and down, it changes the tip size of the brush.
There's a little menu?
So see how it's getting, yeah, it's a little hard to see. It's just little black lines.
Oh my God.
There'll be dashed lines around it, and you can wind it up to make it bigger or smaller by holding the grab button.
Oh, you gotta hold the grab button? Okay.
Yeah. In order to unequip tools, double grab it again. Double tap the grab button. That's how you unequip it.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you scale the tip again?
Oh,
So you have it in your hand, there's little lines.
You grab the lines. Do you have it equipped? You have to have it equipped in order to... You can, did you double tap it? When you double tap the grip button... Yeah, that one can be used even without equipping it, but once you equip it, it'll snap into place. Double tap your grip button.
Yeah, it's in place now.
Alright.
Then it's loose again.
And yeah, try double tapping your grip, and then it will snap into place.
Okay, got it.
You're holding down the grip.
And then the scale for the tip is... How do you do that again?
Oh,
Release that.
Yeah, it's a little
now,
tricky.
let go of it.
So make sure it's equipped.
Okay.
Point your laser at it.
Grab the little radio menu that's close to it, and when you grab it, you can go up and down.
Hold. Point
your other hand.
Like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I spin it? Is that
Nothing happens if I...
Yep.
It says...
Yeah, you spin it.
It's red, it turns grab.
Okay, let me see here. Alright.
Yeah, I'm not getting the spin.
When you have it ready, grab it.
Okay.
Let me see. Alright, now
That's a precise
hold down
thing. Okay.
on the thumbstick.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really it's a little tricky.
Tap on it.
Yeah, you got it. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. The thumb sit down.
It'll do this.
That's an interesting. Okay. That's an
Find
interesting.
it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
How do you change the color? Can you change the color on the fly?
There's not a quick, easy way to do it from here, but you can, I think there's a way to grab, there's certain tips that you can basically dip them into a material and it just changes them. I don't know that this one does that.
Okay.
I think those are special brushes.
You're pressing down.
I think milestone should be configured to change color. Get like a spawn color dialog, and they should also respect that.
Not press down, press backwards. I'm sorry. I'm just.
I think this is probably a pretty old copy of a tool.
Oh, it's because I'm in different locomotion, that's why.
Yeah, this one's not configured.
Sorry.
There should be like a proportion, then like, some of them.
Should I?
Maybe try this one.
So there are brushes where you can change the color a little bit easier. This one, this one's an old one.
So I'm not sure why the other one isn't working. Maybe it's just a...
Well, that'll save me
Let me get
trying to
you
change the color on this one.
Most of the time, what I end up doing is I end up drawing something and then changing the color afterwards, but yeah.
Okay. No, I can't seem to...
Which brings me to the materials. So the material orb, or the material here, is a really good example of ingenuity, I think. When it comes down to it, if you equip this, it's fairly simple to use. If you hold down, point at what you want to kind of eyedrop, like I'm pointing at the floor here, and I'm going to press on my thumb pad, and what it's going to do is suck up the material, and now you see the material that's on the floor is inside of the pool.
Nice.
Okay, so let's remove it.
That's how you size it. Yep.
That's kind of how you grab a material. The thing is, it's an orb as well, so it's its own object, and you can grab it and pull it out of there.
No, I got it. Although
Then it's its own thing.
Skills.
And then you could take that and just save it to your inventory. Yep, you can put that in your inventory, yep.
That's very cool.
Since the drawings are 3D mesh, you could export it out of Neos and into as like an FBX or... Okay, cut out there, sorry. But whatever is supported, FBX or OBJ or 3DS.
Engage the grab.
So, yeah. I was just
that would be nice. And
so,
yeah. And then refine it and import it back.
So you can see here how this is now has the material grabbed off the ground. Shot it with this tool.
Nice.
And I could grab the material from here and change it back.
Let me bring in a really cool, where's my brush?
To use it, even though I'm logged in. Have you ever seen
Is this it?
Sorry, say that again?
I don't seem to have permission to use it, even though I'm logged in.
Where was it?
Oh, I see. Let me change the settings in here. 1 second.
Found it.
Got that?
Nice. It's a bit bright now. I like the cloud one. The clouds look really nice. I think that worked.
This one's really good for making like...
Is it good now?
For different maps.
I think so. So quickly I just point at the ground. Or sorry, extract the material.
Yep, there you go. So you got the orb.
Okay, beautiful.
And then, yeah, try shooting.
I think for this, it actually uses different points and it places a particle on each of them. So that's how this one works. So it would use a whole bunch of frequencies instead of geometry.
I just like the back and I just get lucky.
Yeah,
that's a geometry line like this. It's like a flat.
Sorry, you were breaking up a little bit there. I wasn't quite sure what you said. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, your grab button here.
Let me see if I can
Yeah,
find any more.
it comes back to
Yeah, that's kind of it's actually more of a feature because it only goes when you can actually interact with something. So like point this tool, you should see your laser come up.
Okay. That's a nice demonstration. So you were talking about grabbing the floor material.
No, you're talking about like
So
animated
if you
material
take
or
this
something
tool
like that,
and
like
double
this.
grip,
But if it was animated?
so now it's equipped. Now you can point at the floor and I think press in on your thumb pad.
To get like animation loops.
I see.
So you just grab this material,
Import models with animations.
and now you can shoot other things to change their material. I've disabled colliders on the screen so people don't change that.
I like that. I think you dipped your pen in to draw with that pen.
Yeah, you can actually up to me if you want.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
So it says when extracting
Just dip it with your other pen. That'll work.
material org first. So what's the quickest way to purge the material in order to
Grab it with your other hand and pull it out.
Oh,
it's a material
it's just
bowl.
that simple.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's like dipping it into paint.
Like it just as easy
Shit,
as
sorry, I did that.
Oh, that is so cool.
That's okay. No big deal.
There's an undo button for a reason.
Yeah, then do if you want to.
That's
Try it.
awesome.
Let me do it. There we go.
Extract this material.
That's really cool, though. That's really cool.
And I can find materials.
I remember early on in Neos when I realized I could do stuff like that, I had a dream where I was in Neos and I had the material tool and I was chasing people around, just changing their material and then changing their geometry, and because there's a geometry tool too, and it was just like tag with that stuff. And then I woke up from my dream and oh my god, I can actually do that. It was literally a dream come true. It was amazing.
What?
Oh, you're cutting up too bad, Urban. I can't tell what you're saying, buddy.
I see.
It's bad.
And maybe if you disconnect and come back in, it may clear us.
Is it maybe other materials and it's causing a lag?
Oh, yes, we're all drawing now.
Yeah, we're all adding geometry to the world, so it's going to start lagging a little bit more probably.
Okay.
It's a good stress test. We're testing for Fruxus. That's all.
Okay.
This month mainly has been focused to optimization for updates, so a lot of this is subject to change.
Yeah.
To optimize it more.
Yeah, I mentioned that it was somebody had asked about performance, and I mentioned that was going to happen. So
Your trigger. Yeah, that's the focus of February.
Not February specifically, it's like the next major update essentially.
Major update, yeah.
Material
Cool.
bin, I don't know.
There you go.
Works.
Cool. So anybody have more questions about the materials?
There's lots of really cool materials in the material browser, too.
Yeah.
Oh, did I mess up with the material browser?
Yeah, it's really cool. So Fruxus gets funds through Patreon, and in turn becomes a patron of other projects. And one of those projects is that material library that's in the inventory. I think that's really cool of you, Fruxus.
Yeah.
It's a very
It's totally some good stuff in there too.
Yep, they have really good materials and they let us like reuse them.
Yeah.
Like the people in Neos.
Should we go to another tool?
Yeah, keep going. The glue.
So
Glue next.
this is a pretty good one. Go to glue, but I think this one you might find a little bit more interesting, at least at the offset, and then we'll use the glue on this. So this is the shape tool. So if you want to grab the shape tool and equip that, the first thing I'll let you know is that you can change what that shape is, that little square, by pressing left and right on the thumb pad or your thumbstick. And when you find the primitive that you want, just hold your trigger and drag.
Nice.
There's some shapes that yet to be, or that needed to be added. Those will be added eventually. But there are other ways to add those shapes, and those shapes that are needed to be added are like the torus and like a pyramid.
Oh, okay. Oh, sure.
So just more primitives, basically.
Yeah,
cool.
There'll be more eventually.
Nice.
So once you have something that you've made, sorry, go ahead. Does anybody have questions about this tool real quick?
I was just going to say, eventually, could you load your own, basically like stamps in here, your own shapes to draw with?
Yeah.
I guess. I'm not sure.
About Neos.
I haven't thought of that.
Yes, I like that.
You would have to.
I want to make like a object spawn natural, like a brush for arbitrary objects. So essentially, we can load it with absolutely anything and just draw with it.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, like a stamp, so you could draw with your own. Or you could draw something, save it like a stamp, and then draw with it or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would like foliage, for example, and place it around the environment. I don't want to make things like very flexible.
You know what I would like? Would be like an eraser tool. So instead of like grabbing and going to a wheel, just like have like an eraser, and I could just go like boop, boop, boop. Cause like you get like all these small ones, you know, and then like they're really hard to grab and everything. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? Like the microscopic. So you could just go like, okay, I don't need these 5, or
like a delete tool.
Yeah, then we'll get all sorted. I might have a bunch of stuff.
So one of the other things, so if you have a shape built, and let's say you have, these individual parts, or nice individual parts, you might want this whole thing to move, grab this. That's where the glue tool comes in handy. So if you equip that, the basic idea is that this will draw a sphere, and anything encapsulated within it, it will group those things together. So if I click here and just start pulling,
sorry,
that's fine.
It's those. And now this is all grouped together as one object.
Nice.
I like the concept of glue drying. It's kind of funny. You wait for that orb to go away, and that's like the glue drying.
oh, it's super cool.
There's also another feature for the glue tool, and that's the bake mesh. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, sure. I just learned about that one. That's a good one.
Yes. Essentially, like the bake mesh, what standard gluing does, it essentially just parents the objects together. But if you have like very complex objects that's composed from many tiny meshes, it's usually not very efficient to render. So like when you have actually multiple of those objects, it can drag down the performance because it just has lots of tiny objects to render. So if you switch the glue tool to the bake mesh, essentially what it does, it takes the actual geometry and it combines it into a single mesh. So that can be useful for exporting them. So like you can export this as a single mesh, but it also improves performance because instead of thousands like of tiny objects, you have one big mesh and it's much more efficient render. So it can help like a lot of scenarios where you like make a drawing and then you want to publish it. So you would bake it and distribute the baked version.
Alright. So like if you would look at this like the inspector, we'll look at the developer tool at some point here, but you can think of it as these are four different objects, and once you bake it, it's all one object.
Yeah, exactly. It also like loses some information, like for example, because they are using visual geometry. So you can essentially could go to inspector and you could change like the parameters of the meshes. Once you bake it, you lose that information. Essentially, it becomes fixed. So like you cannot change it afterwards. Essentially, it's a good idea like to save the original version and then have the baked version for distribution, like for example for putting in your environment or placing it in the world.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's no undo for that one. Once you bake it, it's baked.
Actually, I decided, let me write it down. I should add undo.
Cool. So that is the shape brush. We got the pen tool. Talked about the glue tool. Any questions on those so far?
That's awesome. I'm just playing. That's cool though. Cool stuff. Whoops.
I finished that thing I was working on earlier. I'm gonna bring it in once we talk about scripting.
All right. So the next one I'll point out here is the light tool, and man, I remember when I first figured out what this was, I was like amazed because I was really into changing the lighting with my models and things like that. So being able to manipulate light in here is really, really, really nice. This will probably highlight it a little bit easier. Put the light tool. What happens is it creates an orb for you, but if you hold down the trigger and pull away, it increases the intensity, the brightness of that orb. As you get closer, it goes farther in. This didn't highlight it very well, actually. It's the material. And then this is also kind of a button. It's like a light switch. You can click it to turn it off and back on.
Whoa. What's that?
It's just a platform. Let me get rid of it out of the way for you.
Oh.
Did I do that? I hope I didn't do that. Did I do that?
I don't know.
That's good. Where'd the platform come from?
I had a platform underneath this, but my eyes are glowing.
Would it be under my undo if I did it? Let's see here.
Yeah, maybe. It'll say undo grab.
The guilty pro. Let me see here. Am I going to be the guilty one here? Let's see here.
Hold on, I'll try to get rid of it.
No. Nope.
There's no collider on it. I'm gonna have to open up an inspector.
What's let me try if I can find the center of it. Maybe
This might lag. Okay, I guess it's gonna be there for now. Okay,
got it.
yeah,
Cool.
it is gone.
Oh, there it's gone. It's gone, yeah.
Nice.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm not sure how that happened.
Could have been any one of us, though. Any one of us. Let's see it. Oh, there I go.
So yeah, light tool. I tend to save these in different colors and just save them into my inventory with different colors because color of it, you actually have to use the developer tool and open up an inspector window to change it around. You don't?
Oh, are you
Hey,
saying
I'm gonna learn something.
Are you saying when you spawn it or after you spawn it?
Yes. Well, even right now, can you change the color of this real quickly?
When you already did it out, you're going to have to do it in the inspector. But when you...
Okay, yeah. Oh, look at that.
When you use the tool, if you hold down the secondary button and move around the thumbstick or move around the touchpad, you can change the color.
Oh.
Nice.
If it's in the center, it'll just be white.
I didn't know that.
It'll change to different colors. I see,
Fruits, can you do that for brushes?
Can we do that for brushes?
Possibly, yes.
That would be awesome.
Just do that for the brushes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Modify the brushes to do that.
It would like take because like sometimes people use brushes while they can still like move around, so that would require to use the touchpad. So you wouldn't be able to move with the brush if it was using the functionality.
The main functionality with the brush and changing its color.
Oh, okay. I mean, it could be on like the opposite. Like hands don't necessarily have to be navigation. You know, like so my left controller could be change color or something for my touchpad.
The main deal,
like flying around.
Yeah.
Like essentially, like we had it that way before, but like some people, like when they draw, they essentially like to like move with the same hand going, so they can actually use the locomotion as part of their like as part of their.
Oh yeah,
I could add like the option, so like you could essentially toggle it on each brush whether you want the color changing or not.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because I like to change colors as I'm drawing.
So essentially, what you could do is have multiple material orbs. That's what I sometimes use too. And that's usually what you could do. And then you can, if you, for example, also, you have mesh already drawn out, and you want to change the material mesh is using, you take the material gun, you open up the radio menu, you place the material in there, and then you go to edit. You can edit all the different features of that material, like the color, whatever textures is on it, or even logics for it too.
I can like do more like a traditional one, like color dialog like this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it would like keep the secondary free.
Right. Like I would hold that in one hand and then be drawing in the other hand. That's how I'd probably use it. You know, just like a traditional palette almost. Like,
yeah, you could.
It's just like options so you can just pull this out.
yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, just to spawn the palette. Yeah.
It's fun going to people's workstations and seeing what they've done.
See what people are doing. Yeah.
I'm gonna make it green. There we go. Everything's green now.
That's nice.
For some reason, the color picking is broken too. Because like the brushes, they're supposed to pick colors like this. But I think I might have broken it at some point. I'll fix it up.
In your spare time,
At least
that's
if you-
fine. Cool, though.
I haven't tried it in a while.
This is a fun sculpture.
That's a trophy. I made a trophy for you. I was gonna
Nice.
It's
That's going in my inventory right now. Yeah.
It's made from with metal.
That's right.
Oh,
Your material.
my inventory's grayed out.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I have that
You're just
material
loading.
from.
The material was from the floor, I thought.
I think.
I think it's
Oh,
from.
is it?
Yeah, that's from the floor.
Oh, okay. It looks really good. I like all those like cut marks and
Seems to
stuff
be
in
a
the metal.
granite texture. But no, it's an actual metal texture. I just noticed it. Just with a whole bunch of scratches.
Searched.
Yeah. I thought it was a good. I thought it looked like a good trophy. What is
There we go.
it?
Got it.
Warts and all. Nice.
Yeah, totally. That's going in my home, man. I'm putting it in my home.
Well, you earned it. You earned it.
So yeah, so it's been a little over an hour, and my family is now home, which means you may start hearing children dying.
Okay.
They're usually screaming, so they sound like there's a massacre
Oh, no.
sometimes.
I think it would be good to do this. Well, I'm the kind of guy that needs to hear stuff like 2-3 times before it actually makes sense at all.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know if you do these things more often or something. 'Cause I would sure.
Yeah, well, this is the first one, and I wanted to see how it went before I really committed to that. But I would like to do more of these. I think this has been really fun, and I think people have gotten some tips out of it and stuff. So yeah, it's a good idea.
Well, I feel I haven't even scratched the surface because
You haven't.
Around to change the pen and stuff, but like all the other stuff, it's like I think we could easily do like half an object or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Look.
There's a ton of things that could be gone over. Definitely.
There are plenty of resources on the Discord and in Neos itself. One major creator on here, his name is Business Lawyer on Neos. He has been making many tutorials.
Yeah, his tutorials are
things you
great.
can
I've
get.
learned so much from.
Secretary, did you go over the developer tool yet, or where were we at with that?
I didn't. Yeah, not yet. I haven't.
Set the light.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so we got pretty much everything. I think the two remaining are the developer and the logics, and those are by far like pretty much some of the most advanced and versatile concepts within Neos. So the developer tool, I've made my own kind of model for this, and I've put it on all these. All of these tools are in your inventory. But the developer tool, the biggest thing you'll notice with that when you equip it is you get a lot more options on your radial menu. And one of the most powerful ones is the inspector. So the inspector, basically, the way you want to use this, there may be better ways, you can add anything, and pressing up on my thumb pad will select it. And you'll see that from here, you have a gadget that will allow you to move things a little more fine-grained. So this is stuck to a particular direction, and you can only move it I think this is the y-axis. I always forget which one's which.
X is red, Y is green, and Z is blue.
Okay, so this is the y. I'm moving it now.
You see those small squares there? You'll see like a yellow square, a cyan, and a magenta one. Those will move on those two axes.
There's two axes, yeah. That's nice.
And if you press...
Oops.
But if you grab the middle box, the transparent box, you can actually move it on all three axes at once. When you're not grabbing onto it or grabbing it, there is a menu box that pops up on the top here. They'll show you the different options that you can play around with
so this
with
one
an object that's being selected. Is the rotation.
Rotation.
Oh, single selection mode. Okay, that's what I want.
And the one right here is scaling. You can scale on each axis or all of them at once. That's actually scaling all the tools on there, I noticed. Interesting.
Yeah, because it's apparent.
It's fun now, they're 2D.
2D!
It's back on us again.
And you will see like a square or a cube. Cubes, that's actually the local and global orientation. If it's a sphere, then it's global. If it's a cube, then it's local axes.
So global Y is this way.
Yep.
And local to this object Y is this way.
I'm trying to remember what that arrow on the right does. I don't normally use it. Hey folks, what does this one do?
Oh, I double clicked it and it went to the parent.
I see. So it goes up a hierarchy.
Is it through the navigator inspector?
That's very nice.
Okay,
I didn't
I'll be
even
using
know
that more often now.
Yeah, totally.
I'm guessing you're going to add more labels to these boxes here too.
Yeah, I want to just redo like the way these are done because the problem is that these like you cannot see them through the object, so sometimes they're difficult to find. But
I see.
Like with them being 3D like this, it's not right now. It's not possible like to make them display properly behind things. So also it's kind of cumbersome. So I'm gonna make it into traditional 2D icons. And they will like render through objects. Cool. Also, it would require like coding a new icon every time and add one.
So you're gonna basically make it similar to this menu here, but like in a straight line, and you can see through it. Okay, I see. So that definitely is subject to change.
Oh, a lot of things are pretty much.
But those are the main basic functions.
Like the functionality will stay the same. So for this. Yeah. One thing I want to do also is so there's no like follow you, because like sometimes when you select a really enormous object, these gizmos and this can be like somewhere. Sometimes it's difficult to find it, so like I want to like so you can essentially show it in front of you.
Oh, hello.
At least
popping in and see what's going on here.
Okay, cool. We're doing like a little introductory class of how to use Neos.
And then so there's also deselecting. You can just like hit the selection again, like up on your thumb pad. You can deselect things.
So you select by what again, circuitry?
have
Either
the tool
the-
equipped,
With your thumb pad.
and then up thumb pad.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. And then I can open an inspector window on the object I've selected. Is that right?
Yep.
Open inspector. Nice.
So you select it, pull open your radio, open inspector, and now you have a Unity type of window that is all of the properties and components that are on this particular object.
So, yeah.
Cool.
If you look up at the very top, you'll obviously see the position, rotation, and scale of the object, what it's parented to, any tags that it has, if it's active or not, and what persistent means. If you take it into another world, it'll disappear, or if you go into the world, or load the world again, it'll disappear.
So here's a great
is, I think, something that deals with rendering. I haven't played around with that much.
So here's a good instance of where I want to use this. I've got this select inspector open, and this it keeps snapping to this surface. And that's because I added a component on there to do that. But I don't want it to do that right now, so I'm just going to take, and since I've got, dang it, since I've got that cube selected, I'm going to scroll through here and find this component. So you basically just touch it and move it up or down.
Okay.
I'll point with your laser and scroll it up or down by holding the trigger.
Holding the trigger?
Yeah, you can also hold the trigger and move it.
And if you
Okay, great. Thank
select any of these boxes, whether they're numbers or labels, you can type in integers or such, or words or letters, depending on what it is.
Cool. Oh my god.
And then the property of the component, I'm going to just remove that. And now it doesn't stick.
Circular.
So yeah, and there's a
If you
ton of
want to
stuff in
remove
there,
a
like
component?
all kinds of new components, all kinds of stuff. Yep. It's probably the best.
X.
Just. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how you remove.
So that's the whole collider. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And if I click on this, will that make it smaller, or will it collapse this sort
Oh,
of?
you're too choppy, man.
Not yet.
No, it doesn't.
Sphere collider. Okay, so it doesn't collapse. Okay, that's fine.
Actually, that is a good idea to add,
I think it's going.
because
I remember talking.
Then it would just make everything less. I could just open what I needed to
Yeah.
open.
yeah, that's actually a good idea. I honestly, yeah,
If you look at
we should do that in the next few updates.
That would be amazing.
And that green button right next to the X is also duplication.
Oh wow, cool. Okay.
Duplicates it within that
Grabbable.
object.
Wow. Okay. Nice. So if you had like a complex object,
I love it.
would it open? Is there a way to like
Trying to import something.
this thing? So this is glued together. Is there a way to like go in and change one element of it?
Yes.
Okay, let me get myself,
As long as you didn't bake it, yes.
Okay. So
let me get myself a dev tooltip real quick. If you didn't, well, yeah, if you didn't bake it, let me get myself a dev tooltip here.
Oh, nice.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's not baked.
And then here's that exact cube. If I want to disable that cube, and it's gone.
Neat. Yeah.
And it's back, and it's gone, and it's back. If I want to duplicate it, I can duplicate it here too. Now I got 2 cubes.
Nice.
But you move it as a
Using
whole.
the glue.
That'll let you bake.
Cool.
Glue tooltip.
Cool. Thank you.
I did not know that.
The more you know.
Yeah, that bake option, I just learned about that like yesterday. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I'm coming, just, checking in, seeing what you guys are doing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
I was wondering, I found a logic state bug.
I love it. Somebody wireframed this.
There you go.
Everything looks wireframed to me because the texture's kind of. Hey, Fruits, I found a thing.
Nice.
So it seems like we lost most people.
Yeah, where did everybody go?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's
A lot of stuff, and we've been in over an hour, so yeah, we can check out the logic tip real quick.
What's the power of the logic tip?
The logic tip and the developer's tooltip go hand in hand.
Definitely.
Most important thing is you should know.
I think it's to reposition the tooltip. Like it's the mention to avatar, so it's colliding with the ball.
Have something
Yeah, I'll just change it. But yeah, I noticed there's something.
Just need to shift it.
A rendering. I found a rendering bug with the multiplex.
Yeah, so that
So with the developer tooltip, I opened this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grip and pull this material off. Oh, that's the wrong material. Let's see. Where's the right material?
Okay, it's not even fair. I just can't select things.
Trying to show this here.
That happens.
does it happen every time?
Yes, it happens every time. If you hook a multiplex into a multiplex that has...
I mean, the notebook
or
being able to select.
Yes, you can do it every time. And now I just can't use
And
it.
does that happen like recently, with like recent build?
So I'm trying to think of a good, quick example to
I've
do.
used it, but I just figured out
With
how
the
to
Logix tip, because Logix has a ton of stuff that is within it, and one of the things that
orbit or something?
Yeah, it works.
yeah, so a lot of stuff here. Spinning things is always actually the way that I tend to spin things, and I do a lot of spinning geometry. I'll just make a box here. The quickest that is with a component, and so if I open up an inspector box. Let's see where to position this. That's not. There we go. So here's our box. Here's our inspector for our box. I'm going to attach a component, and within the components, I tend to go to the transform, and then the drivers, and then there's a spinner component. And so that spinner component will allow us to get to it. Come on. All right, so the spinner will give us speed, and when you edit the value of the speed, it rotate on that axis. So this at 5 units per second, I think. I'm not sure what the units are, but maybe degrees. And it's going that. So then I can up that 50, 500.
Nice.
And it spins.
Cool.
Exactly. So that's the easiest way to do spinning. But what you could do, you could do this with Logix as well, actually. And the way I would go about doing that would be, well, first I'd want to remove this component. And then what I'm going to do is top, we have our cube. All right, so I'm going to take this cube, and I want to have a Logix interface for this cube so that I can use Logix on any of these properties here. And the way I do that is I grab the name with my Logix tip equipped, and then I hit the thumb pad. Come on, it's not doing it. Or do I need to hit the trigger? Why isn't that working? Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, so I had to grab it from here. I couldn't grab the name up here. I had to grab it from the side.
On the side there. Okay.
Yeah. And so then when I hit the thumb pad, it opens up this interface. And you'll see if you put these side by side, they're the exact same values. You have names, labels. Name, parent, tag, active, persistent, position, rotation scale. And so what I want to do is I want to change the rotation. And I'm going to change the Y value. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to open my radial menu within the node selector. There's a whole bunch of object nodes. And there's a ton of stuff in here. It takes a long time to understand what they all are and where to find them sometimes. But it's what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, let's see, I want the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Time is under input. So when I double click on time, you'll see that my tooltip changes to a T. There's a T above it. And so now if I double click, it opens up a time node. So this time node is a piece of Logix that I can plug into something. Now, to do that in the rotation, I kind of need 3 different views, right? Because this is a quaternion, and it needs the X, Y, and Z. So I want to be able to target just Y of the rotation. And in order to do that, I need another Logix node. Let's see, I think that's under...
What are you looking for?
I always forget where this one is. I'm looking for the pack. Oh, here it is. Pack XYZ. So I've double-clicked pack XYZ. It now says pack XYZ. If I double-click, I get a XYZ node. So what this allows me to do is it takes 3 inputs. Top is X, middle is Y, bottom is Z. So since I want to affect the Y, I'm going to take this output of time, the time node, I'm going to click with my trigger, and I'm going to pull this down to, and now that is connected to the Y. All right, so these nodes are connected. Yeah, the other thing that's really useful about these is you can display the views by just grabbing one of these and pulling it. Let's see. Pull it off, and then hit your thumb pad, it'll give you the actual values here. So time is getting into Y, and you can see here that it's packing. X is 0, there's no input. Y is the time value, and I can pull the value of this. You can see that these are... Time is going into the Y value and coming out XYZ. So these are kind of the display modes of this Logix. And then I can take this and plug this into the component's interface. Oh, I can't do rotation. I can do position, I think. Rotation needs... Why can't I plug this into rotation? It's a value, isn't it?
It's using...
What do I need?
It's using float queues, so let's see here.
I think the node for that is Euler or something. Euler.
Hold on. Let me.
Euler would make sense because it's a quaternion, so I just don't know where it's at.
I think Fuchs forgot to categorize it, but maybe I forgot where it is. One of the two. So I have to get a float queue, which is under input. No, it is not under input.
It's math rotation.
There's Euler.
But
say it again.
What I was going to
math.
Any questions?
Rotation.
Math rotation.
Okay.
Yeah. The U angle.
Nice.
Let's do something here. I sent that. Okay, let me respawn it then.
Within my business.
It's amazing.
There we go. Okay, so this Euler angle, I can
That's what it was. Okay.
Value.
Yep.
Ah, get out of here.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I can't go that way. It won't let me.
From Euler. It's not Euler angles, it's from Euler.
Oh, okay.
It turns it from a point to...
There we go. Okay.
So you take... It was going backwards. That way.
Computer.
Yeah.
Got a whole RPG.
That's amazing.
Going on with this.
And it should...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's moving. Yep.
Oh, it is moving.
That's
Yep,
crazy.
it's moving. You can see the value going up.
You could turn this into a... You know what we could do?
Maybe if you plug it into the others.
I'll be right back. Let me go get a model. It's really big, though.
There we go.
Don't pull any big models in here, man.
Now, essentially, with Logix, with other programs like Blender, or use node-based editing. Only what this is
Sure. Like blueprints in the Unreal.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's super cool.
Oh yeah. That's just a really basic Logix. I've seen stuff that people have done in here can quickly spiral when it comes to spaghetti code, which truly looks like spaghetti. You have nodes all over the place.
Wow.
I have a computer.
Wow.
It's not fun. It's very laggy. Now we have a spinning Earth. Sorry,
Nice.
the clouds are now spinning, but the Earth is staying there.
That's cool.
You can not apply rotation to the Earth.
So the other thing you can do is then just click on these to hide them. Maybe. I gotta pack it
How
first.
you would do that, yep, you have to pack it first. Packing is a little tricky. You have to hold down the...
Why isn't it?
Hold it. There you go.
There it goes. So hold on, packed it. So now it's part of this object. Now I can take this object and move it around.
See that little square right there?
Yeah.
You press that square, it'll pack it, and essentially you point at any of those nodes, and then you hold down the secondary.
Okay. I don't have my developer. Do I need to have my logic tool to do that? Or yeah, I guess I do.
Yes. Yeah, you have to use the logic. I don't know why I can't grab this now, but
you point and click on the box. Just point and click on the box with your the trigger. That's all you need to do.
I love this man.
Okay.
Yep. Point and click.
And then the secondary. Okay. Sounds does.
Oh wait, no, just there we go. Why is it not? Hold up. Okay.
Oh, now we
see how it.
Now we got it done.
All right. Now point at any of these, and then press the secondary and hold it. You'll see a little circle that will run your tool when you do it, and it should be all under this object.
Wow. Okay.
It's not grabbable though. I don't know why.
The wrong way.
And you
We're going back in time.
Nice.
And essentially,
so
Oh, wow.
holding meeting to like pair programming.
you hold a meeting just for logics.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I would join that class for sure. Man.